Hey everyone, Warwick's here. Apologies, you see this artwork in the bottom left of your corner and not my face. I did a quick update of my camera program that I use to blot out my background, and for some reason, it's causing issues. So you get this instead. This is the baseline for what's going to eventually become a future model that I will use, probably more active on stream, and you'll probably see this more often on stream going forward. So just wanted to get that out of the way first. So today's video, as you can see, I'm hanging out here in the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Void Storm. Wonderful looking zone here. Oh my god, I love this zone. But anyways, I'm on the Midnight Beta, and I've been putting together the ideas for this video, my thoughts on this video for a while. I've mentioned it a few times. And I finally got, I think, at a point where I'm ready to discuss this, and that is the Blizzard UI. Now, I basically only have one add-on right now, and that is Better Blizz Frames. I've tried Nef UI, which I know a lot of people have been using. I'm personally not a fan. But I wanted to give the entire leveling experience like a true shot using no add-ons. Now, I've done some normal dungeons. I think I've done a heroic dungeon as well. So I've seen a little bit of everything else, and there are still things that I'm tweaking as I figure out like what's going to be important moving forward and stuff like that. But I wanted to give my thoughts on the whole process. Now, I'm coming at this from the perspective of a tank and DPS. I have not leveled. I don't even have any healer character profiles. I mean, I have a healer profile set up because of the druid, and I was just messing with it, but it's nowhere near as refined as the tank slash DPS UI is for me. And so I'm coming at it from that perspective. So for those of you that are going to jump down my throat about, oh, what about the frames for healers? It's just because I don't have the experience on beta using these. Now, I do some preservation healing in Retail WoW, and I'm currently using the default frames. And for the most part, I don't have a problem with them. So are there things that I would like to be able to do with them? Absolutely. But I also don't think that I have enough tenured experience healing consistently with the default frames to be able to form an opinion that I believe is justified giving. I recognize my shortcoming here. So if you're under a rock for whatever reason, you will know that the decision was made much faster than I think most of us anticipated to basically take combat out-ons and old yellow them. They took them out back, shot them. So things like your weak aura packages, most of your raid and dungeon weak auras, your nameplate add-ons, your even your details, your bigwigs, your little DBM, if you use those add-ons, a lot of those are being taken out back and destroyed by Blizzard with a new approach to how they're going to do the API. In return, Blizzard is trying to implement a lot of that information themselves. Now, there is justified skepticism from the community as a whole as to whether or not the UI is actually going to be really good or not. And I think out of the box, as it is stands right now, we are about 2 weeks into the beta. Today's the 26th as I record this. So yeah, we're only 15 days, so just over 2 weeks into the beta, and there's new UI implementations coming out. Now, as I'm recording this video, about 5 hours ago, around noon my time, they did announce that the expansion is releasing on March 2nd, which means we're likely getting the pre-patch towards the end of February. So with that timeline in place, we have basically about 2 to 3 months of beta cycle still left, which tells me that they are wanting to extend this beta cycle to allow for a ton of mainly probably UI work. Now, for the most part, most of the questing that I've done is in a really, really good place. Like it's really functional. Everything spawns on a justified means, things like that. So like, I don't think it's because they need to clean up and freshen up content other than ironing out whatever bugs come through. I think it's mostly so that they have more time to work on the UI and fine tune things like their encounter design for dungeons and raids. They've done some dungeon tuning or some dungeon testing, some raid testing already. More, I'm sure, will be coming after the holiday this week in America, and I'm sure there'll be some in between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then I'm sure there'll be a ton going on in the early part of 2026. But my video, what I want to do is I want to give my thoughts on the UI as it is right now. The good, the bad, the ugly, the great, and what do I think of it overall. So let's go ahead and get this out of the way because people are going to talk about it. Let's talk about the damage meters. Let me go kill them up here real quick. You can see here we got our damage meters. And, you know, they are very, very basic. You can see I've done a little bit of healing here. These are in complete numbers. So this doesn't have the same level of information that, that Details has. Let's just be real with this. Like, it just doesn't hold that same information. But you can see it's very, very basic. The problem is that right now I can't hover over it to be able to see, like, what was my damage breakdown? What was my healing breakdown? Now, it does allow you to do things like interrupts and dispels. You can see, you know, how much your healing did in all of this, which in Details, this was all baked into the same thing. And the same thing with this, the DPS and damage done was in like one frame. You can see I did 72,000 DPS. Now, when these initially came out and this is all that we could do with them, a lot of people were like, this is why Blizzard shouldn't have fucking removed add-ons and blah, blah. And like, they absolutely blew their gasket. And then a week after they released these came out on the, these were released on the 18th. That's when the build with damage meters implemented came in. On the 25th, these weirdos at Blizzard decided, hey, we received all your feedback about the damage meters. We implemented a bare bones version of it because we didn't want to do any Mythic Plus or raid testing without having the damage meters in the game. Blizzard, if you would have said that from the fucking beginning, I think it would have saved a lot of headache for you, a lot of headache for the players. And this is the trend that I'm going to discuss a lot. They are reactive with their communication, not proactive, and it really hurts. They're shooting themselves in the foot multiple times and then trying to walk on it like it's no big deal. If they had said this up front, hey, we implemented a super bare bones version of the damage meters. It's basically only going to track very minimal things, but we are far from done with features that we want to implement on them. We wanted to have them in place so that when Mythic Plus testing and raid testing started, we had some sort of a way to be able to gather some data through the damage meters and stuff like that. Now, is the damage meter perfect? No. Things like Spirit Link Totem are contributing to damage done. So, like, if you have 3 target party members that are at 10% health and your tank walks into that, and it, you know, Spirit Link is designed to share the health and make them all even so that then they can be healed up. What happens is that, you know, say your tank gets taken down to 50% health, that damage was counting for the shaman because they were the one that removed that health. So it counts as damage done. So there's stupid bugs like that. Stagger was counting as damage done. Things of that nature for Brewmaster. So, not to say there weren't bugs and weren't implementation, but I think people drastically overreacted to what was going on with the damage meters. But I think they would have overreacted less had they actually been told up front, hey, this is super bare bones, just so you know. We want to have this in for purely for specific testing purposes, and we'll be implementing features on new builds, which should start up again next week. Holiday week, they're not going to implement a new build. So I wanted to get that out of the way first, because, like, I'm not concerned about it. My thought process to damage meters is very, I think, controversial. And then I think 99% of people don't use damage meters for the right reason. Like, they look at it and go, oh, I'm number 1 on the damage meters, I must be a good player. No, that doesn't mean jack shit. What damage meters were useful for was a very small dopamine hit during the middle of a key or a raid fight. I mean, I hear it all the time in my keys. Like, we'd finish a pull and people are like, oh, I did 30 million DPS during that pull. That's cool. Like, okay, great, fine. Means you played your spec well. That's good. We love that. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't really tell the story of, like, how'd you get there all that well. Like, one pull doesn't show you kind of what you did. Like, most people didn't use the damage breakdown or the encounter breakdown in ways that were very useful. The death tracker wasn't used in a way that was useful. Like, Details has a ton of features that nobody really uses outside of, like, I would wager 0.5% of the WoW playing audience. So the fact that people were going nuts over the fact that it's like, oh, I can't track my deaths. Like, buddy, you weren't tracking your deaths in the first place. Don't lie to me. Let's be real. So I'm of the opinion that damage meters are there simply for everyone's entertainment. But most people that want to do actual like learning and progress don't use their details damage meters all that much for that. And so it being a little more bare bones than what Details was offering, I think is actually fine. They do little things like I would love to be able to see like, the DPS was 622, sorry. So I would love to be able to have like, name, DPS done. It would say like, 629. And then you have, 196k or whatever it is it shows on Details right now. I would love for that to be implemented. That's like the big thing that I want. And then I want to be able to see the damage breakdown. So that way, if I'm in between, or like, we're in between keys where a lot of people don't log their keys, I can go over that and say, okay, what was my damage breakdown for the dungeon? What can I use to work on? Or if you're just quickly checking between raid pulls, you just, okay, let me pull that pull. Let me look at my damage breakdown. What did I potentially do wrong? I think there's a lot of value in that for the players that know how to do that. But beyond that, I don't think the damage meters and the healing meters need to be much more detailed than that, honestly. Like, you don't need an encounter breakdown window. You don't need, a streamer plugin that shows you all the actions that you're taking and stuff like that. Like, that's more for entertainment purposes. And Blizzard's not here to do things that are for entertainment purposes. They're trying to make the game good. And yes, entertaining is part of that. Like, you have to have fun playing it. But, like, the things that, like, the data analysis that people do on this game, most people don't understand. So, it is what it is. All right, let's talk about the rest of the UI. So we're going to go into edit mode, and I'm going to talk about this kind of on a one-to-one basis. So let's talk about the unit frames. So the player and target frame. There are a couple of issues that I have with the player and target frame. One, there's no default way to remove the player picture and allow that to become just like a more squared off frame. Like we have to have this like square into circle phallus looking shape. I would love to be able to just cut that off and then fill that space by making the player frame a little bit longer so people can have more squared off boxy style art. I would love to see that. Showing the text on these, the 100% and the 222k is my HP. Showing that right off the base would be really good. I would love on the target frame to be able to hide all the buffs. Because for the most part, I don't care. I don't need to deal with them. Nameplates, if I need to dispel something or soothe something on a druid or hunter, for example, I can do that. Or if I need to, remove magic on my demon hunter, I can do that without using nameplates. So I would love for that to be the case. The other thing, focus frame is fine for the most part. I don't use focus frames a lot. I know some people do, so I don't have a ton to say on focus frames. Boss frames. They need to allow more expansion of the options. Like, yeah, you can, increase the frame size, but allow us to do things like remove the cast bar period. Or allow us to remove things like these dragons and make the frames wider so that we can see that, like make the frames equal length. That way I can very quickly see things and allow me to do things like quick mark stuff off the boss frames. Right now I can't right click a unit frame and attach a marker to it. Like, let me do that. Like, let me right click it, no different than I can my player frame, add a target marker icon to it, because that'll help in things like, hey, we need to attack the skull, and everyone can look around and see the skull. And then let's get to the elephant in the room. Let's talk about the party and raid frames. So from the perspective of someone that plays, right now plays a class, in Demon Hunter, that does not have any spells. DK, the other class I'm probably going to play a ton of, doesn't have any spells. So from that perspective, if you're a warrior, you're a rogue, you're a hunter, you're, who have very minimal or no spells, like, you're fine. The problem that I know that comes in with them is that if you are a spec that does, and this is not even talking about healing yet. This is strictly from groups that have group utility. So things like a poison cleanse or a disease cleanse or a curse cleanse. It's sometimes hard to see that stuff, and they need to do more to add buff filtering. Now, as I approach this, I think they're very aware of the feedback on their raid and party frames, and I'm willing to bet that in the next build, we're going to see some extensive changes to both. I have a feeling this has been a big priority for Blizzard to work on. Now, you can see in this custom here, like, there's nothing, like, we have a display border, which doesn't do much. Like, they have some placeholder things to where you can put your buffs on the top, you can put your buffs on the right, like, whatever you want to do the legacy ones, but, like, this configuration menu does really poorly in showing what that's going to look like. Yeah, the sizing and stuff is fine, the opacity, the icon size, like, I can shrink down the icons, you know, and kind of get a better idea, but, like, we need to be able to whitelist and blacklist what's on there. Like, if we don't have, like, the Bloodlust Sated debuff, I don't need to see that on my party frames. I can look up here and see them very quickly. Same goes for the buff and debuff frame, as let us have a filtering. Like, I don't need something to shows the fact that I have a 60-minute fort buff, a 60-minute int buff, and a, you know, Mark of the Wild in the midst of combat. Like, I just don't need that. So more whitelist, blacklist type stuff going on in all of these frames would be very helpful. And I think that would be a pretty big boon to both sets, just for groups that are not healers. Now, for healers, custom placements of things like your hots, like I know a lot of Resto, like when I was playing Resto Druid, I would have Rejuvenation in the top right corner, Life Bloom in the top left corner, Wild Growth Hot in the top center. I would have Regrowth in the bottom right corner. F-Flow would be on there. Cenarian Ward would be somewhere. Like, I had the ability to place the icons, the squares, kind of wherever I wanted, so that I could very easily track which ones were there. We need to have stuff like that, particularly for classes that are heavy in their hots and heal over time effects. So Preservation Evoker, because they can echo things like Dream Breath or Reversion, with echoes on party members as well. Obviously Resto Druid. To a lesser extent, I think something like Holy Priest would be good, or Holy Paladin would be good. So you can see things like your Holy Shocks out on people, or your Dawn Lights on people, stuff like that. So they need to do more to allow for more custom placements of items, and then things like the middle one. The other thing that I would like to do and recommend to Blizzard is that you have this out of range thing. It's kind of hard to see, but basically it puts like a circle on somebody that's out of range. It darkens the frame like you normally would with transparency stuff, but then it also puts a circle in the middle of it. But the problem is that circle overrides anything else. Remove that circle. Don't give us a circle. That's a visual aid that's not necessary. Oh, or make it so that debuffs override everything. Like, they are always like top. So they're there. But if you're not a healer and you don't really have a dispel, frankly, the frames are fine. It is what it is. Oh, one other thing about the party player frames, I have to get an add-on to class color my frames here, otherwise they're that ugly green color. Please, Blizzard, implement that on your own. Like, please implement that on your own. Let the party and target frames be class colored. Same with your personal resource display. Please allow that to be visible at all times. Like, it just makes life so much better. And removes the need for an add-on. All right, what about things like their action bars? I think the action bars are fine. My number one issue is that on action bars like 2 through 8 or 11, you always have this visible option, but for some reason they still don't implement it on bar 1. Let us hide bar 1. There are people that, you know, memorize all of their buttons. Now, obviously, everyone's going to have to relearn things being stripped away. Muscle memory is going to have to be redeveloped. But, like, for me, after, like, say I'm playing Havoc, for example, which is probably the spec I'm going to primarily play, after about, like, 2 weeks, I'm going to know where all my buttons are at. And with the cooldown manager being up, I know when all those buttons are available. I don't need my action bars to show for this, so I could hide all these bars. I could stick them, you know, off to the side here and just never be visible until I need to, you know, put a new ability on or whatever the case may be. Like, I don't need that. But I end up always showing all of my action bars because I can't hide this first bar. Other than that, the bars work really, really well. I don't know why people still go to things like dominoes. Like you can, you know, change your icon. Like the icon padding could still probably use a little more work to make them even less padding. Like the icon sizes, people can blow them up or make them super small. You know, for me, this is a profession out of combat stuff that like I don't use a ton, so I make that bar small, whereas my main action bars are, you know, 90%. I could even justify making them smaller, and I probably will once I learn things. So, extra ability bar, same thing. Like, it doesn't really give us the option to make this bigger or smaller. I would love to be able to have that. So, go from there. And then things like the micro bar. I do like the options you have here. The eye size can be adjusted to be bigger or smaller, depending on what you want. So, like, the bars themselves, I think, all do a good job. Quest tracker. One small thing I have on the quest tracker, I would love the option for, like, when you have an item that's usable, either do what you've done in previous expansions where, like, if there's an item that you have to use on an enemy, you just hover over them and that icon shows up and you can click to use it that way. But if you have to click the icon and then click out into the world, allow us an option if we have the objective frame on the right side to put all the objective icons or the item icons on the left side. Just a small quality of life thing. Alright, let's talk cooldown manager. So the cooldown manager is in an interesting spot. A lot of people either love it or they hate it. There's not really an in-between. I think it's actually in a pretty decent spot, same with personal resource display. But again, I want to be able to class color this. But it does a good job of tracking everything. Like, it does everything that I'm asking for it to do. In this case, you know, and obviously for things like healers. You know, so, like, I have this proc, and, you know, I can go, you know, I can use it. Now, the one thing is, like, if you have a charge ability, like here, it shows I'm collecting my souls. Obviously, the hunt is up right now. Like, it does a good job of showing me, like, the things that are on cooldown. Now, I have my other bars, you know. I have them a little bit more, a little bit smaller, and then things like the tracking of things like your uptime buff. So if I go into Vengeance, for example, and I press Demon Spikes, it's going to show up as a bar down here, and I'm still, like, show Demon Spikes, like, right here, obviously. Yeah, so it'll show that. You know, it shows the cooldown here, but it doesn't show the duration here, and I would much rather be able to show the duration rather than the cooldown here, because I'm also going to be looking here for stuff. Now, the options themselves, I think, are actually not that bad. So, like, if you do advanced cooldown settings, you can move stuff that's not essential out of there. So, like right now I'm playing an Annihilator build. So, like, oh. So right now I'm playing, like, an Annihilator build. So something like Throw Glaive is very unimportant in this build. So what I could actually do, I wish there was a faster way to get to these options, but is I can take Throw Glaive and assign it to utility cooldowns. And it just moves there, and then I can move these around based on where I want them at. And it'll move it left or right based on what's there. And something like Soul Cleave is not displayed at all because it's a spammable ability. It's the same thing, like Consume is not available on it. So overall, like, the ability to adjust the cooldown manager is fine. Like, you can see here, I have my soul fragments that will go out, and then I have my Voidfall, which is the Annihilator passive. I can see those, and again, I can make those bigger or smaller if I need to. Like, I make them a little bit smaller, but I can make them a little bit bigger. I can do the same thing with these, is I can make the icon size and the bars a little bit bigger if I need to, so that I can better track these. So there's options in place to be able to do this. Are they as customizable as weak auras? No. Are they ever going to be able to get to that point? Potentially. Does it function pretty well, all things considered? Yeah, I think so. The tracked bars, I kind of wish were just a little bit different. That's my big thing. Is I'm not a big fan of the bars thing. I would rather have something else that allows me to see the duration of things like my active mitigation as a tank. But for the most part, like, I actually think the cooldown tracker does its job and what it's intended to do. And then you're going to get people in the community, folks like Luxthos and others, that are going to take the cooldown manager and do quite a bit with it. Like, they're going to do some pretty interesting work with it because they're pretty creative people that know what's going on. So we're there on that. I do have external defensive frames here. I haven't tested this a ton, so I'm not going to speak on it a lot. Follower dungeons I've done, and like I said, a couple of normal and heroics. So this timeline, oops, sorry. So the timeline on the boss, you can obviously decide you want to have it go vertical. You can even have it go, down to the bottom, or it will scroll upwards, depending on what you want, depending on how you position it. I prefer down because that's just what I'm used to. You can even have it show the tooltip so that when you hover over the spell, it'll show you the tooltip name. It'll always show like the active encounter. You can do opacity, like you can adjust this. And then you can, even in the boss warning settings, it'll even tell you, all right, here, really long cooldown. So like a berserk timer, you can hide that. You can hide countdown for other roles. So if you are not interested in when the tank buster's coming out because you're a damage dealer, you're fine. But if you're a healer, you may want to show when that tank buster comes out, because that's when you know you need to heal your tank, or your tank would need to use a mitigation cooldown and stuff like that. It'll show like what kind of icons you want. You can choose what type of warnings you want, medium and critical priority. So it'll adjust it depending on your thing. There's a lot of going on. For those of you that like the bar settings of DBM and Bigwigs, those add-on authors have already both confirmed that they are going to be in the process of creating basically reskin settings. Now, the one thing that I think is a little bit strange are these boss warning. This basically puts text on your screen. So like, for example, thinking of like a current boss in retail. Like Hildebrand, when he calls out in Gambit, when he calls out his purifiers, it'll actually show that warning right here. It'll show this, but then it'll say like boss warning critical purifiers are out. Now this I'm still adjusting with. I'm still playing with all of this. I need to do a lot more extensive testing. Same with the encounter bar and stuff like that. But we can go from there. Damage meter, one last thing on these, you can lock the scroll, which is nice. I would love to be able to have something like in details that says always show you. So even if I'm like in a raid group of 20, I'm the 14th DPS, I still want to be able to see, okay, where am I at, DPS wise compared to everyone else. The other thing I would like to see with the damage meters is allow me to snap the windows and make them the same size, because right now I can't. That's why my bars look like a little off. Like this little thing right here annoys me. So just FYI on that, Blizzard, please allow me to make my windows match. When you create extra windows, put them in the edit mode so that I can make them the same size, that sort of thing. Small thing there, but for the most part, is this UI great? No. Is this UI functional? 100%. Oh, nameplates. Sorry, we're gonna get out of the tangent of nameplates. So you've seen the nameplates here. Let me go into the options for nameplates. There are some small things with nameplates. Number one, they got to fix stacking nameplates. Because, like, holy crap, are they bad. You've seen the videos, you've seen all that stuff. Like, you can see it even here now. Just 2 mobs. Just 2 mobs. Let me... so let me... do this. This character's probably gonna die because he's not. But like, here we have 3 mobs. And like you can see just how this Shredclaw's nameplates move around. Like all of these move around like way too much. I'm not even engaged with them. They're literally just naturally moving. So like that needs to be like highly addressed. Now the problem is that stacking nameplates have always been hard. Even an add-on like Plater or KUI did not do stacking nameplates well. But they did them way better than what Blizzard's currently doing them as. You know, whereas like, you know, here, if this Ravenous Shredclaw has like the primary cast, it's almost impossible to see it right now with non-stacking nameplates. So they got to fix that. But honestly, other than some very minor things, like, you know, and like this cast focused one, I would love to have the target name and their health inside the bar. Like, give me an option for that. I would love that. You know, you have one that's health focused. If you're not so much worried about kicks, this would be good for things like healers. You know, you have your old block style, which does put things in there. I would like the cast bars to be able to show things like kicks, like what cast can be kicked and what cast can't. It definitely makes things a lot easier. You know, you have thin ones, which again puts the name outside, which I hate. Allow me an option to do that. I just stick with modern. And then you have your default ones, which are horrible, but I would like this style, except in the cast focus. Like, that's my thing about it. And you can change the size, make them bigger and smaller as you need to. You can show, like, your personal buffs. So, like, if you have a dot on them, plus their debuffs, or enemy debuffs, you see your dots, and then personal buffs. So, like, if you have, like, a Dispel that's really good, things of that nature. So there's like a lot of customization that can be done with that. Simplifying nameplates is kind of silly. I don't know why this is an option. You know, you can change like the aggro display, which will be progressive, or it'll flash when you take aggro. You can do both. I think that's pretty good. I think that's kind of neat. So there is some good customization options. There needs to be a little bit more done with it. The biggest thing, honestly, is fix the stacking nameplates. If you can fix the stacking, I think a lot of people will actually find that the nameplates themselves aren't terrible. So, and I think they're in a much better position now. And again, the biggest thing is, like, I want to be able to have a nameplate like this, except then when they're casting something, I can have that cast bar be much bigger in the cast focus without the name arbitrarily moving to the top. So you can see, like, this cat, and, like, even let me make this bigger than it is. But the fact that this is above the name, like, I hate that. Please don't. Give me an option to allow me to put the names and stuff inside of the HP bars themselves. So my thoughts on the UI is I think it is way better than people are giving it credit for. That said, there are some very obvious black holes. I think that the healer quality of life on the party and raid frames 1000% needs to be looked at. I think the nameplates, obviously, with the stacking situation, need to be looked at. And there are just a bunch of little, like, quality of life things and options that need to be implemented and added on. Like, more and more features need to be added in. And hopefully over the next little while, we get options for that. Things like being able to, even something simple like pulling a URL, like someone links you to their Discord, I should be able to click on that link and open it. So, are there going to be a need for add-ons still? Yeah. If you don't like the default Blizzard bar looks and stuff like that, I'm sure there are going to be add-ons that let you reskin the bars to a different style of bar look, things of that nature. But I think the amount of add-ons that you're going to need in Midnight versus what you use now in War Within is going to be significantly reduced, and I think that's actually a good thing overall. Like, I support the goals that Blizzard has. I think they're doing better than people are giving them credit for, but there are some very obvious spots that they need to do a ton of work into. The big ones being the party and healer, the party and raid frames, nameplate stacking probably being number 2 on that list, and there still needs to be some refinement to the cooldown manager. There's a bunch of little things that they could do to make it a lot easier to set up and things of that nature. So So let me know what your thoughts on the UI are. Keep them constructive if you can. Like let's try to use this space to give positive or constructive feedback. Like, hey, here's some things that I want to see. I play Holy Paladin. Here are things that I want to see. I play Guardian Druid. Here are things that I want to see. I play Frosty K. Here are things that I want to see. I'm an Affliction Warlock. Here are things that I want to see. That's one last thing. Debuff tracking for dot specs is miserable right now. So that needs to be worked on. Part of that is fixing some of the nameplate issues, but even in the cooldown manager, tracking your dots is kind of nightmarish right now. So a lot of things that still need to be functional, but I want to use this space as an opportunity to try to provide feedback to the Blizzard devs on that if you have any, or if you know someone that knows someone that knows someone, send them this video and let them see kind of my thoughts on this overall. Like, I think they're doing a good job. Is it as far along as people want it to be? No. Is it going to get there? I'm going to be optimistic and say yes. Is it going to be there by midnight launch? I'm not ready to say that yet. I think 12.0 is going to be a very interesting time for Blizzard to really get a feel for what their UI still needs. Like, once we get the entire player base into normal raid, into heroic week, into the Mythic Plus dungeons and things like that, or they open up more and more dungeon testing, I think they're going to get quite a bit of the data and surprise and feedback that they're craving right now. You know, I don't want to see, you know, I mean, people are going to do it, but if your comments like, fuck Blizzard, like, I don't fucking care about that, dude. I don't care what your feelings on the company are. If you're playing the game and you're enjoying it and you want to see it improve, like, hey, here are some needs that I have. The accessibility community has been very, very vocal. Please go continue to support them on that. I have big concerns about accessibility. They're implementing things like more sound cues into the game. Hopefully, as we can get more beta builds, they implement more and more variety of sound cues. But I want people to talk about, like, what are the things that they feel they need in their UIs. So let me know what you think below. Comment, like, share, subscribe. Send this to your guild. Send this to your buddies that you play with. Send this to the communities that you're involved in. And hopefully we can, you know, outside of the forums and the issue reporters and stuff like that, anywhere we can get enough good feedback in place for, we want to do that. And hopefully this video maybe can act as one of those sources for you. So until the next video, hope you all stay safe. Hope you enjoy yourself. You're having fun. You keep on gaming. And we'll see you next time.